Hey, Kevin, you been looking at Twitter lately? There's
Yeah, I mean,
some stuff
who
going on.
hasn't? Who hasn't? It's literally the news. Twitter is the
Right.
news right now.
Yeah. And so, like, what I've been noticing is a lot of people are throwing their hat in the ring. They're Monday morning quarterbacking Elon to death. And so I thought we could get together and just throw our hat in the ring. I think we can fix Twitter better than anyone else. So,
I
like,
think we can armchair quarterback this thing. I think we've got some
yeah,
ideas. We've talked about plenty
yeah,
of things, so let's talk about it.
yeah. So I've got several things I want to run by you, and let's talk about. Like, number one is the whole like how do I get Twitter verified? So the big problem that I see is people wanted the blue check mark, right? It
Right,
was a valuable thing before Elon took over.
right.
And now Elon says, "Hey, we need to make money. I want to charge for the blue check mark." And that's probably a problem because it's hard to take something that used to be free and then start charging for it at the same time making it less valuable because now anyone can get it.
Definitely less valuable. A service
Right.
that was before called verification is now something that you're charged for, but the service isn't what it used to be.
Right.
That's the other thing
Yeah,
too. You
exactly.
change the
Yeah.
service too. You're not really verified anymore. You're paying for a vanity checkmark now. It's called
Yeah. So
verification.
yeah, and it's a bad. It's like paying for a badge or getting a Discord chat badge or
Yeah.
getting a badge, something like that. Our members here on our channel get badges if they're a part of the membership. They pay to get those badges. So Twitter did the same thing where it's a
Right.
badge mark, and apparently, and I can say this objectively, people didn't like that.
Oh, again, have you looked at Twitter over the last
Yeah,
week or so?
exactly.
Yeah, people did not like this. Not like
Right.
that at all.
So here's my suggestion. One of the things that we'll see, we could talk about this. Like, number one, I think there's a couple of things that we could do. First, let's talk about companies or brands. So let's say that you're the NBA or you're a senator at Congress or you're the New York Times or you're just a little brand, the best boot camp in the country, Coder Foundry,
Right.
something like that,
Yep.
Um, but you want to get that company blue check mark because you're operating a brand. And so if
Right.
that brand was impersonated, it could do damage to your company.
Right.
So I think the first and foremost thing we should do is go back to the way the system used to be, but let's just talk about brands. And so we could submit tax documents, maybe our organization document, something like that, that would
Yeah.
say, okay, this is Coder Foundry, the coding bootcamp in North Carolina. And they would look at that and they would verify that this Twitter account is in fact the Coder Foundry Bootcamp account, or it's the NBA account, or it's the Microsoft account, or
Right.
it's the Screen Actors Guild account.
It's actual
Boom.
verification. You're
Yeah.
proving you are who you say you are as an entity.
Yeah. Yeah. At a
I like
brand
that.
level and an
At a brand
entity
level. I like
level.
that. Yeah. I like that.
Now, and so here's my good idea, or I think my big idea. And like, we'll see what you think. What if once we get Coder Foundry verified, then we allow that company to then become a third party authorization person. So like, in other words, like I could then pass a blue check to you, Kevin Doyle, and to my Bobby Davis personal
Okay.
Twitter account. And
Yeah.
then when they looked over the blue check, it would say verified by Coder Foundry because we're attached to a brand. And so then Coder Foundry would pay for every blue check that they authorize.
Okay. Yeah.
So
I mean,
that
that's the
you,
company validating who they say is speaking on their behalf.
right, yeah. And that way, if you're paying for it, you're not going to have what I would call a blue check farm where someone just starts up a company and says, I'm a blue check farm and just come in
Right.
here
Because
and
there's a
get
cost
verified.
associated with it. Right.
Yeah,
It's a hurdle to a
right.
spammer.
The other thing that Twitter could do is, let's say that they do make a blue check farm. Someone comes out and says, all right, I'm just going to make a company solely for handing out blue checks. I'm going to charge $27 a month over the $8 or $15,000
Okay.
or whatever.
Okay.
But that company has to be somehow responsible for some of the speech that goes on. Now, let's say that you go out there and you get struck 3 times by Twitter and they ban your
Yep.
account.
Yep.
That doesn't reflect on Coder Foundry. But
Right.
let's say that
To a brand, it
everybody,
would.
yeah, but to a brand it would, but like so far the brand stays intact. But then
Right.
suddenly everybody under the Coder Foundry account, all of them get banned. then
Right.
it starts reflecting
Right.
back to the brand and say, well, maybe
Yep.
this brand is bad, and then
Right. No,
they
I agree
ban the
with that.
brand.
If you've given it out
Yeah,
to 10 accounts, you've given your brand check to 10 different accounts, and
right,
then 3 of those accounts start spamming, then the whole brand goes down.
right.
Yeah, I like it. The
And
whole
so I
brand
think
gets a
that keeps
check. Or gets a
that's how you
thing
can
against them.
stop the spam farms or the blue check farm company that just starts up and then
I like
they
that.
have no control over everybody and then they just lose the whole thing.
I like that. So what
'Cause that's
happens to what happens to the other group of people then? What happens to if me and I'm a gamer and I have a YouTube channel, I'm not associated with a brand, then I Fortnite stream or something. What does that do for me? I'm still a pauper at this point because I have
yeah,
no blue check
exactly.
mark.
So it's the lords and peasants system that's we
Right.
still have, like Elon talked
As-
about. So right now, like if you're in the NBA can hand a blue check mark out to Kevin Durant, and
right.
Kevin Durant, you mouse over his blue check says verified by the NBA. Dwayne Johnson has the SAG card, his Screen Actors Guild. You mouse over that.
Yep.
Congressman the same way. But you're right. You're a famous Fortnite streamer.
Right.
So you're on by your own. Or we could take someone super famous like Mr. Beast. He's a famous.
Right. He's on his own.
Um,
Yeah.
he's on his own.
And he was
Super
verified
famous.
by Twitter originally. So whatever hoops he
Right.
had to go through originally, he did. So
Yeah. So that's where we think you should, if you create an account, that you should go through and you want the blue check, you have to verify who you are. And that's driver's license, government issued ID, something like that. Now, I think, and you can disagree with this, I think you should also have a minimum amount of followers, like a 0-day account. You can't just start up an account and get verified right away. What do you think about that?
I'm okay with having a. I'm okay with just paying and validating and not having followers. I think that's okay. I think it's enough hoops to jump through because again, you're starting the lords and the peasants thing again. It's like you got to meet a
Yeah.
minimum criterion, which you have something like that on YouTube, right? You do have to meet a certain
Right.
amount of criteria before you can monetize and those kind of things and some features. But even YouTube has started unlocking features to lower and lower and lower numbers because they
Mhm.
realize that as long as you put enough hoops for people to jump through, it will stop bots and spammers. So the hoops being if you're a
Right.
personal account, paying for it is one barrier, right? Which is what
Yeah,
that's Elon's whole idea right now is just paying for it
right.
stops the spammers, right? But that's not
Right.
enough because that paying for it doesn't mean the word verification isn't this. You're not verified anything. A bot could still
Right.
technically be verified. Doesn't it's not the definition of the word is thrown out of the window if you're just paying for it. But if you're having to prove who you are too, that's a big enough hoop for me that bots and spammers just will not jump through. They won't do it.
Right.
So even if they got 0 followers, I think you don't need a threshold past that. I think you could start a new account, send them your driver's license, send them your passport, whatever it is, government ID, pay your $8 or whatever it ends up becoming, whatever monetary amount it is. Those 2 things alone for me will make sure that you get real accounts.
Right. And then in that case, you would have to like steal a government issue ID, do some other kind of like identity
Of
theft.
course, exactly. Of course, you could do
Right.
it. Right? I've
Right.
used this analogy before. You could do it. You could still have a fake ID. You could still pay your $8 and still start spamming on the thing. But it will
It's
cut
just
down
harder.
so many people doing it. It's so much harder. It's like I used this analogy before. It's like robbing a bank, right?
Right.
You could rob a bank that has a security guard, right? You could
Mhm.
do it. You could disarm the security guard and rob the bank. But chances are that robber is going to look at the bank who doesn't have the security guard.
Right.
It's much
Yeah.
easier for him. He's going to take the one without
Right.
the security guard because it's way easy. He's not going to jump through the extra hoops of dealing with this extra issue, this barrier. The more barriers you put in place, I think Twitter just needs more barriers to verification.
Yeah.
And
It's just so
Elon's
it's the
idea for
path.
that is just payment. That's the only thing he's
Yeah.
come up with. Is just we'll pay
Right.
because he's kind of thinking it solves 2 problems, right? It solves the
Right.
problem of bots and spammers, but it also like gets some money coming in, right? So that's
Right,
the other
yeah.
thing that it solves.
Yeah. So I think that the other thing that he did wrong, and this is me totally playing Monday morning quarterback, like looking at it, like he pitched it wrong. So he pitched
Oh
it
yeah,
as the Lord and peasant system, and he held the blue check as the most important thing.
oh yeah,
Which I think what Twitter needs to do, especially at the brand level, and then let's say you have 400, 500,000 or 1 million Twitter followers. These people have different needs than I just want the blue check mark people. I am a true peasant. I have 3 followers. No one cares if I'm verified or not, but I just want it for vanity. So we need to give those people more tools. And so like you need to run campaigns. Obviously, edit button exists already. Um, just more tools around the reason that you pay. Yes, you do get a blue check mark. Yes, you've been verified, but here's some tools around campaigns. And I think in company level, you give them some free ads.
Yeah, I think so too. I would love
Yeah,
at a company level if there was some sort of a corporate account company level thing where you're verified, where you pay. Let's say that you pay $1,000 a month, but you get
right. Yeah,
$1,000 in ads.
right.
Like, trust me, there's brands that would do that, and it comes
Yeah,
along with all the verification stuff, all the statistical stuff, all the features, whatever features they want to build into it at a brand level. Comes with all those features, but also comes with a bunch of ads as well. It solves two
right.
problems. It's tons of extra money coming in because it's from corporate. It's way more money than $8 a month from individuals.
Exactly.
If you get hundreds of
Yeah,
accounts, thousands of accounts signing up at a corporate level, it's going to mean more. And you're getting ads back on the platform again, which you want to
right.
sell anyway.
Yeah, you do. And I think that they could take a hard look at ad targeting, ad development, all of those things that happen on Twitter. Because trust me, we both know this. They've got to make it easier than AdSense on Google. Like so, like like
Oh yeah, it's
it,
yeah, yeah.
it's they can make it easier and they can make the targeting better and they can make ads perform better if they sit down and think about it. Now, maybe that doesn't hit Elon's like 3 to 4 week roadmap. What can we do this month?
Right, right.
But you could tell people like, here's what we're going to do on this verification side of the company level. Here's the features that we're going to roll out. Give them a roadmap. The more likely to sign up.
Exactly. The
Because
promise of
you've
some of
given them
these
value.
features would be enough. I think
Right.
Elon doesn't put enough weight in the promise of things. He only puts weight in things that he can actually see today.
Right.
He wants it to be like yesterday. He wants all the problems to be fixed yesterday. But if you tell people like, "Hey, I have this idea for this feature. What do you think?" And if it's a good idea, you're right. He would probably sell it based on just the idea of it like being a coming soon kind of thing.
Right. So I think what he could do is, verification at the company level, personal level, then give them the feature set they're going to get. And I would totally put the blue check mark as my last feature.
Yeah, it's like
Oh, by the
a
way,
little nice to have, isn't it? It's
by the
like,
way, you get this, but you're getting all this other stuff here that's going to help you be
yeah,
better at tweeting on the personal level or better at using Twitter on the company brand level. And then you have the power to hand out the blue check as a company, as a brand. And that takes weight off Twitter having to verify all these people. You don't have to verify Kevin Durant any longer. The
right.
company does that. You just control the brands, and the super famous or whoever else wants a blue check mark at the personal level, you verify those. And I think it would cut down on the amount of oversight they have to do on that regard. Okay, so one of the biggest problems or the things that blew up most was Eli Lilly. So Eli Lilly gets impersonated and they say that
Impersonation.
insulin is free. And
Right.
the world blows up, their stock
So
market drops in real life.
somebody opened up, right, it had real world
Yeah,
implications. So somebody
yeah,
opened up a brand new account, they paid their $8, they got a blue check
right,
mark, and they changed their name to Eli Lilly. And
right.
to the uneducated or just to the masses even really, it looked like the official company.
Right. And so here's the problem Twitter has. Twitter is so famous, so much of a public square that if you allow this to happen, you could start a war. I mean, like someone could go out and say
Right.
they
Right.
they become president. What's the president of the United States of America? Create a Joe Biden account, get a blue check mark, and then declare war against China. They believe it, and suddenly
Right.
people are shooting bullets at each other.
Right.
Hopefully that doesn't happen. But when you look at insulin, the price of insulin, that's exactly what happened. People
Oh, it had a
thought that
real
thing
world
was
implication. It actually hurt the
right,
stock of Eli Lilly
right. It did.
because of
So
this.
is that short lived or is it long lived? I don't know. But that brings up the point is like, what do you do to stop that? So the problem they had is you could go out and get a blue check mark without verification. Now we talked about that previously. Like if you want a blue check mark, you absolutely have to prove who you are.
Yep.
So that's one part of it. But you can also get a blue check mark and then change your name and impersonate someone else.
Right.
And so like you can go around the system by that way saying, okay, now if you go out and do something really fraudulent, they can go back and find out, like, okay, that's Kevin Doyle doing that. Let's arrest him. So there is some the verification does halt that a little bit. Well, let's just say what if it's just confusing names and like I'm trying to be a parody account. I'm trying to make fun of the president, or I'm trying to make fun of Eli Lilly by making insulin free. I didn't really know that people would believe it and the stock market would react that way. What
Right.
do we do? And I think one of the things that we could do is look at the Xbox platform from Microsoft, that
Yeah.
you can't change your name but once. You get one name change.
Yeah, one change.
And
Well,
I think you
it's one.
have to be
It's one
verified
free
to even,
change.
yeah, one free change. And then after that, it costs $10 to change your name.
Yep. Yep.
So there's a little
Again,
bit
this
of a
is the
hurdle
same
there.
thing I was talking about before. Again, yeah, you're exactly
Yeah,
right. It's another hoop to jump
yeah,
through. It's a hurdle. It's
right.
another thing that will stop bots and spammers from doing it, because it's $10. It's like, if you do
Right.
this on mass, it's just going to be too expensive for a bunch of spam accounts to do it. So they just
Now,
won't. It's another hurdle.
yeah. So my next problem that I would want to solve, and this again, there may be a technological limitation to what you can do, but I think anything can be coded and anything can be built.
Yeah.
That if you change your name, they can roll through the verified accounts to see if that name change is going to be confusing to another name change that's out there. So, sort of like a really quick trademark check or a really quick business name
Okay.
check. When you go get a business name, you can't go out and name it anything. You have to
Right.
have a check or something like that. So they could build in a system that would keep things from being impersonated by making confusing names, and that could include intentional misspellings or confusing spellings or exact spellings. Say like you can't say at POTUS. You can't use that.
Right.
You can't,
Right.
and you also can't use President of the United States or anything else. And they could use AI to figure these things out, and they definitely could flag accounts that are targets of impersonation and those kind of things.
Yeah, and you're right.
So
That's not a massive pool either, really. When you start thinking
no,
about it, you think about,
no, it
well,
won't
that
be.
could be easy, but it's not a massive pool. There's only
No, we're talking.
it's thousands of companies and accounts, not hundreds of thousands.
But even if it was with modern day computers, say 1 million accounts or
Right.
50 million accounts, you can roll through those pretty quick.
But it's
You
not
know,
though,
like,
because nobody's setting up an account to impersonate me. And please
right,
don't
yeah.
set up an account to impersonate me.
Yeah,
That's
exactly. Yeah.
just to prove a silly point, right?
Right.
But,
Yeah, exactly.
But you know, nobody gains anything by impersonating me. So and that goes
Right.
for 99.9% of users on Twitter. Impersonating
Right.
somebody else it just doesn't matter. There's no gain from it. There's a very few select things that people will want to impersonate because it can have effects.
Right. And then let's say that you do get impersonated. And the only name changes I think can happen is if you're verified. I think if you're unverified and you make an account, that's the name you make it for.
Yep.
That's it. You
Yep.
can't change it. It is what it is. And you can, a lot of people say, well, what's the fun in that? I want to change my name based on the season. I want to be fall guy and Christmas guy, and I want to be Easter guy, and I want to be, spring guy, and I want to change my name whenever I feel like it. Okay. Unfortunately, there's bad actors in the world, and like you
Right.
can't do that.
Right.
But if you verify, and then but you still have to pay to change your name if you want to do it more than once.
I would
So
say
if you want,
I would also say maybe if they gave you one a year or something. Something
okay,
that stops
yeah,
like this, you know what I mean? Because a spammer's going to want to change it a lot of times.
right,
They're not going to want to just change it once. They're going to want to change it every other day to something. If you just
right,
limit the amount of times you could change it, maybe you get 2 a year or something, or 2 a year for free,
right,
and then it starts charging, or something along those lines. So it's just a barrier. It's a barrier
right.
that's going to stop people from setting up these accounts and then changing them. You just limit the number of times that you can do it, and it'll just become another hoop for them to jump.
Right. So, just copy the Xbox system, charge them to name change it, give them maybe a limited amount of name changes, and then check the name change against existing verified brands and people to see if those are going to be confusing for someone else, and make them type in something different before you just accept any name whatsoever. And let's be real, it's about money. He spent $44 billion on the social media company. There's all reports $13 billion in debt due in 12 months. So he needs to make money. And so, like, how can we give him ideas to monetize Twitter? What does it look like for us to monetize Twitter? And I think that's by introducing monetization on Twitter, similar to what's going on in YouTube today and Twitter or Twitch. And so I think, but the problem you have is on YouTube, if we make a video on YouTube, it has an ad that can run right beside that video. And so you can directly equate, okay, they watch this ad on this video. Let's give a portion of that money to Coder Foundry. Same thing on Twitch. We do a Twitch live stream, and there's an ad that runs on our stream. We get credit for that, and we get money for that.
It's directly attached.
Twitter's different. It's just a stream of consciousness going up and down the page. And then every 10 tweets, you see an ad.
Every 3 tweets.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
even if you've got even if you've got Twitter Blue. Just saying.
You said it was 50% left.
It's not less ads. I have it. It's not less ads. Trust me. I want to test it. It's not less ads. But anyway.
So one of the things that we would do is like, how do I attribute tweets to ads? And so here's my idea. I think Twitter should create an ad pool. So let's say that, $1 billion or $4 billion comes into Twitter every year. And then you take probably 30% of that, or 40% if you want to be uber competitive. That goes into the creator ad pool.
Right.
And then you get a share of that pool based on your account's engagement numbers. So you can look at metrics like tweets, retweets, likes, all of these things where you're trying to drive it, drives up your participation in the engagement pool. Now, I know it could be faked. It could be...
Yeah, but I'm sure there's some way that there's some things you can do. There's some grid of things that you can kind of pull in to see how those funds could get assigned. I don't know what the answer to that is, but I agree. There is some way to have a pool and assign money to creators based on some kind of metrics.
Right. And then they could look at like bot accounts don't account for likes or those kind of things. So if it's a bot account, it can't like a tweet. It doesn't get in the metric because it can't view ads. So like Eli wanted to figure out how many bots are on the platform anyway. So he's Twitter probably already knows that anyway. I mean, I would imagine
less than he thought is my guess.
Yeah, it could be. But like, I think they know what those accounts are, and they wouldn't put those likes and those interactions, those engagements in the creator pool. And so your creator pool would be your real life people that interact with your media and your tweets.
Yep.
And so you could get a share in that, whatever that is. And so now suddenly you have more people come to the platform because what do they want to do? Everybody wants passive income. That's what the draw to YouTube is.
You want to monetize your content, right? As a creator, you want to monetize your content because that's what it is.
Right.
It's putting out a tweet on Twitter is essentially the same as creating a video on YouTube. It's just a different medium. It's a video versus text.
And I would say this, and this is probably fair, it's actually easier to do it on Twitter than it is to do it on YouTube.
Oh, well, 100% it is.
You don't have to shoot it. You don't have to edit it. You just have to type in 240 characters and be relevant and make sure that it goes right.
Yeah, the barrier is lower for sure.
The barrier is lower. And so therefore, you get a wider swath of people that would go, I can write some tweets. I can do that. I'm gonna jump on the platform. What do people that jump on the platform do? Watch ads. Because they're in the stream. They're in the stream like that. They're watching ads, and now they're tweeting, and they're trying to get their share of the creator pie. Because, it is very inspirational when you look at someone like Mr. Beast, who started from very humble beginnings. And we've talked about this quite a bit. Like, when he first went out, Mr. Beast wasn't anything. No one watched his videos. And then suddenly, and then suddenly he blew up, and now, he gives away $10,000 to some random kid on Halloween. It's like, it's so like he's famous now. And so everybody wants to be in that creator economy. The other thing they can do is, and they can take their pages from YouTube on this, is that they already have short-term video, right? You already can do that, but they treat the short-term video just like they would any other tweet. I think those have to be separate on the platform.
They need a place, don't they?
A place for that. And then those things have to be discoverable. The other thing they could work on is, can you make tweets more discoverable? Tweets don't live, they're not evergreen. They don't live forever. No. So for example, if you make the one coding project that guaranteed to get you a job video 2 years ago, and now it has over 1 million views on our channel, that's because it's evergreen.
Yeah, if we tweet it's getting views today. It's getting hundreds of views just today.
We made it right now. Ago. But if we tweet about one coding project, we may get some engagement over to 2 days or 3 days.
It's hours and days versus months and years. That's what I equate it to. It's really hours. The tweets do not live.
So if you want to draw people to Twitter, you got to give them other types of content. And so we know TikTok works. So look at what TikTok is doing. They have a short form video channel and then create, like he said, long form video. And so, right now they can support 42 minutes. Maybe it's an hour long, but really 42 minutes is probably long enough, I think.
For most content.
For most YouTube content, it's probably long enough. But you could make it super long form and then find ways to make that video discoverable, find ways to attach ads to it, to monetize it.
Yep.
And I think then you have something, and then you really do compete more on par with YouTube.
I think discoverability is that missing feature.
It is. It's hard to find anything on Twitter. It's just you go look and see what people are talking about today.
Yeah.
And there's no evergreen portion of it, so it's really hard to monetize my tweets.
Yep.
But if you could tweet long form, maybe articles, you can make short-term videos, 30-second TikTok type videos, or you can make long-term video, and then that was discoverable.
Yep.
And then discoverable content drives ad growth. I think that's where they need to do. So I think he can give creators money to come to the platform to create content, which then drives more eyeballs to the platform anyway.
Definitely. I think the Twitter timeline right now is likened to YouTube's subscribe section, right? When you subscribe to a YouTube channel, you go to your subscriptions page on YouTube, you're kind of seeing you've curated your content then, right? You've curated what you're going to see on that page, right?
Right.
But what Twitter doesn't have, they do not have a version of the Twitter homepage, which is a algorithmically curated set of videos. It's like, hey, you've watched a video about this Volkswagen ID4, and I'm now going to show you more videos about this Volkswagen ID4 from channels that you don't necessarily subscribe to. You don't get that on Twitter. What you get right now on Twitter is, hey, I follow these 200 people. I'm only going to see tweets from these 200 people. And it doesn't try and fill in the gaps. They've tried to do that a little bit with topics and things like that, but then it doesn't really work very well. It shows me stuff that I'm really not interested in, even though it thinks I might be interested in it. It just doesn't work very well. It's just not very good. Whatever AI they have that's doing that, it's nowhere near as good as YouTube. YouTube have this thing perfected. Same with TikTok.
Yeah.
If you start watching a few videos on TikTok and you start liking a certain type of video, it will show you a ton of that content. And it's very good at it.
Very good at it. And so it's discoverability, marking up content, putting it in categories, making sure the user's looking at these categories of content, and then just showing it to them, which you're showing ads. That's the thing, and then, so I think if we add monetization, I think that's going to be a real driver for Twitter going forward. Now, this isn't something he can do, like we said, in 3 weeks, but this is definitely something they could roll out over a year, 6 months to a year, and have plans put in place to build these things to make Twitter here for a long time. Because we all want Twitter to hang around. We really don't want it to go out of business.
Right.
We don't want it to, we like Twitter. It's kind of cool. So we need it to stick around. So here's the things. These are our ideas. So I think if you're out there watching us right now and you have some of your ideas leave a comment, man.
Give them to us.
Actually, if you hate our ideas, you think Bobby's crazy, Kevin's crazy, that's stupid. That'll never work. Tell us in the comments below, and we'd love to interact with you and talk about it. And just maybe, the community at large will shape whatever the next Twitter is. And then it will become the product that we all want and hope it can be.